if you don't
All right,
mind,
I'm gonna do. I can never decide to stream like
turning on the live and
portrait or
listening to
landscape
Carter, just talking.
on the video.
See if it's that weird echo thing that was
All right, we're gonna go
happening
live
last time. I think I
on
fixed it.
restream. So Phil, if you don't mind hopping and turning on the live and listening to Carter.
I mean, it's just live.
talking.
Just going to Twitter, I guess.
See if it's that weird echo thing that was happening last time. I think I fixed it.
It should be up on Twitter now. Let me see.
All right.
Like, no, don't join the restream. I'm saying, like, just tune in to the live stream and then Carter will
just go into Twitter, I guess, or any of the live streams.
Do you know what I mean?
See you, Phil.
It should be up on Twitter now.
Oh, he's gone. All right, so now Carter, just say random shit.
Like, no, don't join the restream. I'm saying, like, just tune in to the live stream and then Carter will talk.
Talk and entertain. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's gone.
Oh, he's gone. All right, so now Carter, just say random shit. So just talk and entertain.
We've never actually been to the moon. Talk and entertain. That's pretty interesting. And well, his major argument for it is why haven't we been back here? Hunter has the theory almost 50 years. We haven't been back to the moon. So that's pretty interesting. That's pretty fun. Pretty fun. Major trying to improv here, Phil. Argument for it is why yes, sir, echo Phil. In almost 50 years. We haven't been back to the moon.
All right,
Phil's back.
He's back. How did it go, Phil? Did we pass the test?
It seemed to pass the test for me. I didn't hear any weird echoes.
Yes, sir,
awesome.
echo Phil.
All right, Phil. Well,
hold on. Question.
He's back. How did it go, Phil? Did we pass the test?
How did I know that you were going to tune in when Carter said that? Big Dick.
Yeah, that's my brother. You guys hear what this?
That's not his name, Kenny.
Who doesn't believe
yeah,
we
this
went
is.
to the moon?
All right, Hunter, I just invited you to speak.
How did I know that you were going to tune in?
Oh, here we
when,
go. Have a moon discussion to get things going here.
Big Dick.
Hello?
Yeah, that's my brother.
Okay, so we went to the moon
You
the
guys hear what
same
this
year the
is?
microwave was invented almost. And if you look at the pictures, the
Alright,
shit
Hunter,
looks
I
like
just
it's
invited you to
pencils and tinfoil
Even
holding it
art.
together.
Have a moon discussion to get things going here.
Art?
Yeah, because the technology for
If you look
taking
at the pictures,
pictures
the
in
shit looks
space
like it's
wasn't
pencils
as
and
great as it is
tinfoil holding
now.
it together.
I didn't see an argument.
Just saying.
I mean, first of all, we had Nazis. Yeah, because the technology for taking pictures von Braun, right? As great as it is now. And as far as I know, I mean, since then, I mean, didn't they have like 20 missions? First of all, we had Nazis. It was quite substantial, right, to the moon.
Oh, I haven't gotten to the weeds of it, bro. I look at the pictures. They're in 4K.
And as far as I know, I mean, since then, okay. Didn't they have like 20 missions? We have an Artemis mission that is going to visit the same site where.
I haven't gotten to the weeds of it, bro. I look at the pictures. They're in 4K.
I don't know. I mean, it's very, very weak conspiracy theory. And we have
We'll have to get a Buffalo Wild Wings
visit the same site
and
hash this out a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like
Maybe
we have a
get
lot more
Elon
to
Musk.
talk about here.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very, very weak conspiracy theory. Oh yeah, Elon Musk gonna go.
We'll have to go to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
I want to see people
hash this out a little bit
And
further.
hash that out.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
sounds
guys
like
should
we
have heard
a lot more to
Leslie,
talk about.
Mr. Leslie at our
I'll bring that
Buffalo
up.
Wild Wings the other day. It was fun. He loves Elon
Oh
Musk.
yeah, Elon Musk gonna go. To
Yeah,
Mars.
he especially thinks
Yeah, I
the
want to see
underground
people
tunnels is
walking on
great.
Mars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you guys should have heard Leslie, Mr. Leslie
Fire
at our Buffalo Wild Wings the other day. It was fun. He loves Elon Musk.
What up, Sam?
He
Thanks
he
for
especially
hanging
thinks
out.
the underground tunnels is a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what do you guys have to tell us for sure?
Well, we've been up to a lot. We had ChatGPT create a
What
schedule
up,
for our
Sam?
tour
Thanks for hanging
to
out.
go meet a bunch of the folks on Twitter that we
Do what?
met recently.
Anyway, so
so
what do you
that's
guys have
fun.
to tell
We're gonna
us?
check out that Aladdin project.
Well,
Yeah.
Go down to
we've
Miami,
been up to a
try
lot.
to get a
we had
podcast episode shot on
ChatGPT create
on
a schedule
roof
for our tour
in Miami
to go
somewhere.
meet a
That would
bunch
be
of the
fun. There's a
folks
few developers we've been talking to out
on
there.
Twitter that
Of
we've
course,
met recently.
Mr.
So
B,
that's
a few other
fun.
folks are
We're
out
gonna
there.
check out that Aladdin
And
project.
then we're gonna hit
Go down to
Atlanta.
Miami.
Cool developer
Try
out
to get
there.
a
Baby
podcast
Greens.
episode shot
What
on
is it called?
on a roof.
I always mess up the city name
in Miami
South
somewhere.
Carolina.
That would be fun.
I mean,
There's a few developers we've been talking to out there. Of course,
Greenville.
Greenville.
Mr.
Yeah,
B,
yeah.
a few other
Greenville's like a
folks are
bunch
out
of-
there.
Yeah,
And then
then
we're gonna hit Atlanta, cool
Raleigh,
out
Durham
there.
area.
Baby
A lot of
Greens.
folks out in Ohio
What is it
that
called?
actually you
I always mess up the city
introduced
name
us to a
in
few.
South Carolina. I mean,
and so we're just thinking of getting an RV for 3 weeks.
Greenville, yeah.
Bringing our
Like
laptops so we can engineer on the road.
Yeah,
then bring our podcast gear and just go
Raleigh, Durham area.
Mostly in
a lot of folks out in Ohio that
that's kind of been where we're at.
introduced us to a few.
We had ChatGPT,
and so we're just thinking of getting an RV for 3 weeks
to create a
bringing our
spreadsheet
laptops so we can engineer on the road
up
and
on
then
Twitter.
bring our podcast.
And then it
gear
also
and
created a
go
map.
record a bunch
It
of
wrote
people, mostly in the
Python
community.
script that
that's kind of been where we're at.
So created an
we had
HTML file of the map of the tour that it planned for us. Just as a sketch to show people roughly the area we're going.
That I put an image up on Twitter.
You know, that
and then it also created a
bunch of episodes with a lot of people that we've met on Retweet.
Python script that
or CRX, whatever it's called these
code
days.
that created an HTML file of the map of the tour that it planned for us.
Or do you still
just as a sketch to show people roughly the area we're going to meet?
You know, I should have known that was a yellow flag because when we had our first pizza beer, I said X, and you're like, it's Twitter.
Do you call it X yet, Mr. Leslie?
That was the moment I knew.
On Twitter.
Hell no, it's Twitter.
Yeah, it's too simple.
You know, I should have known that was a yellow flag because when we had our first pizza beer.
Yeah, I just don't know what's going on.
And you're like, it's Twitter.
We're opening with the moon conspiracy.
That was the moment I knew.
Retweet. So what's the through line?
There's so much more.
I know.
What's up, Sam?
Well,
I just don't know what's going on.
We're
opening with the moon
right now.
Now we're talking
I'll put the instant quote show. We are streaming this as a video too for anybody that's out there.
So much more.
We got us Twitter Spaces going with some cool folks out here.
We had
Sam,
all good intentions. We had
the insurance.
We had
I'm in
right now,
insurance.
Yeah, I'll put the
I haven't
instant
touched too much
show.
real
We are
estate.
streaming this as a video too.
So
for anybody
on the
that's out there,
insurance
have comments
Mr. Leslie,
we got us Twitter Spaces going with some cool folks out here. Sam, are you a broker, right? Or no, the insurance. Your Facebook.
Yeah, I'm in insurance.
Ask us
I
questions.
haven't touched too much real estate.
Really, what we do.
That's right.
Sam,
so insurance expert, Mr. Leslie, creative financing and a development expert. Really fun history there.
We're MEP firm engineers.
The comments
and we focus and are obsessed with
just
small projects and scaling. We're happy nobody else wants them, so why not see if we can grab them all?
Sam is talk about
and a lot of
what we're up to
along with
here to try to engage some ideas.
Interesting and creative underwriting for insurance.
MEP firm engineers.
Our website you can
and
get.
We focus and are obsessed with.
You can
small
get a
projects
price
and scaling them because
on our
nobody else
website
wants
in
them. So why not
and
see
now
if
we're
we can
going to be
grab them all?
adding like
And
loan origination
a lot of interesting things come along with
on
that,
our website,
including
and there's these
interesting and creative underwriting for
marketplace
insurance.
At checkout,
our website you can get it's called the Instant Quote
for
Show.
the particular
You can get a
design
price
that you're doing.
on our website in seconds, and now we're going to be adding like loan origination at checkout on our website.
We think as engineers these are cool
opportunities for a marketplace app where at checkout you can buy insurance.
Encourage
for the particular design that you're doing.
Would you tell us a little bit about
cool things that you do? We think they're cool.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Instant quote for insurance.
We think
I'm typically not a fan, but that's just because I don't do too much small stuff. I work with contractors,
what you do,
construction.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Artisan in general, it doesn't matter.
I'm typically
but when I work with someone that's used one of these instant quote direct to consumer
stuff, I work with
applications like Next Insurance. They never get coverage.
In general, it doesn't matter.
So when there is a claim, it's kind of like, oh, well, you put in your gross receipts as this 4 years ago, but you've grown by a couple million. You're not the same company. We're going to come after you for all
they
this
never get
premium.
Coverage. So when there is a claim,
not a huge fan. So how does that work exactly when you're talking about an instant quote for small projects? What is that? Is this for engineering specifically? Is this a liability line?
This is engineering for now.
Not a huge fan. So how does that work exactly
when you're talking about recently?
Instant quote for small projects. What is that? Is this for?
And he was like, man, I can
engineering specifically. Is this
something if we aggregate enough of it and just blend?
This is engineering for now. But we talked to
I actually talked to Casey
on Twitter recently
yesterday for like 45 minutes about
catastrophic risk guy, and he was like, "Man, I can maybe underwrite
packages of
notes
if we aggregate super high risk and just blend real security there."
The risk profile together,
answering the question.
And then Art actually talked to
right now. Our
yesterday for like 45 minutes about the
engineering services by themselves,
trying to originate.
We've been doing that for years. And
packages of notes, and they're super high risk because there's no real security there.
So
Sam, I promise I'll get to answering the question.
Send out a proposal.
It's a bit for right now
without ever looking at the scope. It seems crazy.
Engineering services
that gives us a competitive advantage.
We've been doing that for years,
and
kind of for the exact reason you just said is that no other engineering firm in their right mind would just send out a proposal.
We'll do what they call design bid
without ever looking at the scope. It seems crazy.
3 electricians might bid on
that gives us a competitive advantage because
we're likely to get all 3 of those electricians to run our quote.
In the construction,
in there.
we'll get
because I mean, in a small
bid.
project again.
We'll
not
do
sure
what
if I
they call
clarified, but
design
we are
build,
obsessed with the
bid,
small project
sorry,
market,
design
small and
build.
medium
And so
size,
electricians, 3 electricians
right.
bid on the same project. Well,
maybe 5 million.
we're likely to get
type
all 3 of those
stuff,
electricians to
20,000
run our
square
quote
feet-ish,
to include
some
the
larger
engineer
multifam.
in there.
Anyway,
because I mean,
in that
in a
market,
small project,
many
again,
engineers,
not sure if I
if they
clarified, but
even
we are
give
obsessed
you
with
a
the small
proposal,
project market,
won't
small and
do-
medium
won't get it
size.
to you.
Right.
We'll basically
20
stamp
million
our
less,
drawings before you even
maybe
get a
5 million
proposal.
less type stuff,
At
20,000 square
PermitZIP.
feet-ish,
And so
some larger
really
multifam.
feeding,
Anyway,
adding
in that market,
a
many
barrier to
engineers,
entry into what
if they even
traditionally
give
never
you a
had a barrier to
proposal,
entry.
won't do-
For small
won't give it
projects,
to you.
traditionally you
We'll
only
basically
need a
stamp our
license and a
drawings before
laptop.
you even get a proposal.
So that's our
basically,
obsession.
at PermitZIP.
And it's a huge
so
portion of
really
the
feeding,
40 billion
adding
last year
a barrier to entry
in
into
the
what
AE services
traditionally
industry.
never had a
And
barrier to
good
entry.
chunk of that small
For small
projects.
projects,
It's almost like
traditionally you
begrudgingly
only need a
built.
license and a laptop.
And so we're
that's our
looking at that and
obsession.
saying, well, what if
And
we
there's a
could
huge
get a
portion of
marketplace
the,
app of other structural
40 billion
engineers
last
and
year
civil
in
to also
billables in the AE
do the
services
instant
industry,
quote. But we
and
give
a
them
good chunk of
that
that
same
small
administrative
projects.
portal we
It's
built
almost
for
like
ourselves.
begrudgingly
You can
built.
configure how you want your
And
pricing
so
in your
we're
contracts
like looking at that
to
and saying, well,
dynamically
what
be
if we could
generated.
get a marketplace app
And in
of
that
other
way,
structural
a buyer,
engineers and
Mr.
civil
Leslie,
to
could go on there and
also
say, hey, I got this
do the
project,
instant
here's
quote.
the spec.
But we give
and then he
them
gets multiple
the same
civil
administrative portal
prices,
we built for
multiple
ourselves.
structural,
Like you can
multiple
configure
MEP,
how you
multiple-
want your
all that.
pricing in your
And he can,
contracts
like a
to
DoorDash
dynamically
order,
be
put the
generated.
whole professional services
And then
together
that way,
and go under
a buyer,
contract there.
Mr.
And at
Leslie,
that
could go
moment,
on there and say, hey, I
have
got this project,
huge
here's the spec.
opportunity
And then he gets
to
multiple
create
civil
notes,
I see.
prices, multiple
to create
structural, multiple
insurance,
MEP, multiple all that.
offers,
And he
all
can,
types of stuff.
like a DoorDash order,
So
put
somebody
the
who's
whole
working with me
professional
is a
services
former
together
head of
and
AI
go
at
under
Capital
contract
One,
there. And at that
and
moment, you
and
have
he's
huge
been in fintech for
opportunity
12 years.
to
He's like,
create
you
notes,
realize you're talking about
create
creating a fintech
insurance,
and I'm like, yeah, it's
offers,
just
all types of stuff.
disguised.
So somebody who's working
as
with me is a former head of
MEP
AI at
services
Capital
and
One,
AE services,
and
but really it's like a little
and
brokerage app.
he's been in
Ultimately,
fintech for 12
but
years.
we really want
He's
to
like,
originate
you realize
loans.
you're talking
We
about
want to create a
creating
secondary
fintech.
debt market.
And I'm like, yeah, it's
And
just
then the insurance
Interesting.
disguised.
shows up as an
as
opportunity. I didn't even think
MEP
about it until I
services
talked to the
and
honest
AE
basis
services.
just like this.
But really, it's like a little
You know, an
brokerage
insurance
app.
guy.
Ultimately,
It's
but
very
we
similar,
really
I
want to
guess,
originate loans.
when you think about
we want to create a
lending
secondary
money
debt market.
and you think about
And
insurance,
the insurance
they
shows
think
up
about
as an
things about the
opportunity.
same way in terms of
I didn't even
underwriting,
think about
right?
it until I talked to the
Right.
honest basis,
You
just
gotta
like
calculate
this.
the
Especially
risk.
You know, an insurance
with smaller
guy.
with
It's
smaller
very
guys.
similar, I
I
guess,
mean, it
when you
is
think about
it is a
lending
lot
money
more
and you think
of
about
just a
insuring something.
checking boxes game.
They
for
think about
underwriting.
things
I
about
mean,
the same way in terms of
when
underwriting,
you're
right?
dealing with a small
we gotta
residential
calculate the risk.
plumber
with smaller
in Lake
guys,
Forest
I
and
mean,
another one
it
in Thousand
is
Oaks.
it
You know,
is a
I
lot
mean,
more of just a checking.
there's not really a whole lot
boxes
that's
game
different
for
in the
underwriting. I mean,
operations, at least to
when
the
you're dealing
underwriter. They're
with
not
a
expecting
small
things to get
residential plumber
crazy.
in
When they're larger, there's a lot
Lake
more
Forest and
complexity.
another one
There's
in
a lot more
Thousand
things to
Oaks,
look out
you know, I
for.
mean,
Obviously, the risk is
there's not
bigger,
really a whole
so
lot that's different.
underwriters
in the
will even get more
operations, at least
investigative
to
with
the underwriter.
you know,
They're
going
not
through the
expecting
websites and
things to
whatnot.
get
Your Yelp, your
crazy.
BuildZoom.
When
I
they're
mean,
larger,
they'll
there's
dig
a lot
through
more
anything. You got a
complexity.
TikTok.
There's a lot more things.
It's only
to
a
look
matter
out
of time.
for. Obviously, the risk.
I think before they're
bigger,
on there.
so underwriters will even get more investigative with.
When it comes to the
you know,
small
going
guys,
through
you
the
can definitely
websites
see
and
that.
whatnot,
Yeah,
your Yelp, your
you know,
BuildZoom.
just
I mean,
sort of
they'll dig
the
through anything. You
convenience
got a
aspect.
TikTok. It's only a matter of time.
I'm guessing this is something to do with
I think
LLMs.
before they're on there.
You're working with
So,
AI, ChatGPT.
We actually
when it
aren't,
comes to the small guys, you can definitely see
yet
that.
it's all just basically
you know, just sort of the
a configuration app and a marketplace app. But there's definitely opportunity to these days adding LLMs is almost
you're
impossible
with
not
AI,
to do.
ChatGPT.
It's just so readily accessible.
We actually
that
aren't,
it's easy to
yet
build
it's
that
all
layer
just
in terms of like the
basically
pricing could eventually start
a
to
configuration
be
app
based
and a
on
marketplace app.
a
But
machine
there's
learning of
definitely
some sort,
opportunity
whether
to
that's a
these
large
days
language
adding
model or just
LLMs is
some sort of
almost
neural network.
impossible not to do. It's just so
Taking a
readily
look at it all,
accessible
but
that it's
what we're
easy
doing is a marketplace
to
app.
build that layer in
If
terms
you
of
go
like
to
the pricing could
PermitZIP.com and look at
eventually
what you
start
get on
to
the front
be
end, there's
based
a
on
back end to that
a
that
machine learning
allows
of
us
some
to
sort,
configure all
whether
that
that's a
pricing.
large language
In
model
fact,
or
I mean,
just
it's the
some sort
instant
of
quote
neural
shows, so I
network.
can show this to the audience that's
Taking a
listening.
look
I
at
can
it
share
all,
my
but
screen and show you
what
it
we're
looks like,
doing
but
is a marketplace app.
That's what we're going to be
making. If you go to PermitZIP.com and look at what you get on the front end, there's a backend
will no longer become
that allows us to
no longer
configure all
be an
that
MEP
pricing.
engineering
In fact,
consulting
it
firm.
means the
It'll be a
Instant Quote
marketplace
shows,
app
so I
where you
can
can buy
show this
in all
to the
states
audience
across
that's
the country.
listening. I can share my
These
screen and
services
show you what it looks like.
DoorDash style.
That's what we're going to be making
Okay.
accessible.
I
So
think I'm getting the
PermitZIP.com will
vision.
no
That's really
longer
cool.
become. It will no longer be an
PermitZIP.
MEP engineering consulting firm. It'll be a marketplace app where you can buy.
It's always
in
haunted
all
us. The name
states across the
PermitZIP, 'cause it's been
country,
catchy. We have the
these
.com.
services,
It's all gold
like
and all that.
DoorDash style.
But people think we're
Interesting.
permit expediters. And we're an MEP firm.
I think I'm getting the vision.
The
That's
name
really cool.
matches a little bit more for a marketplace app to try to
PermitZIP.
put together your permit package. all of the professionals you would need.
It's always haunted us, the name PermitZIP, because it's been catchy. We have
all that stuff that happens in the dirt, and all that. Mr. Leslie would know more about what that
permit expediters,
like,
and we're an MVP
painful.
firm.
So,
but the name
we're hoping on
matches
the
a little bit more
retweet
from
community actually to meet
Marketplace
some really creative civil folks too to help us. I've met a few.
All of the professionals you would need, even the civil
that are into the
and
construction
all that
tech
stuff that
side.
happens in the dirt.
And a lot of people have been like, yeah, man,
that pain is
if you
like,
could do that, that lead flow would make that market make more sense.
We're hoping on the retweet community actually to meet some really creative civil folks too to help us. I've met a few.
We get enough lead flow from the instant quote that the dollar cost averaging kind of helps compensate the risk. In other words,
and a lot of people
our
have been
good clients are subsidizing
if you could
our
do
bad
that lead flow would make that market make more sense to us.
Interesting.
It's similar to the insurance package. We get enough lead flow from the instant quote that the dollar cost averaging kind of helps
compensate which developers are the ones that are good to work with.
Our good clients are subsidizing our bad clients
because there's a rating just like Airbnb at the end of the transaction. So
and we try to kick out the bad clients.
There's always going to be those nightmare folks
you can then put
in every industry.
You can now know
I've had to deal with
developers are the ones that are good to work with.
It doesn't work for large projects. That's what's kind of beautiful.
There's a rating just like
large projects, just like insurance or anything else. We'll always kind of have to have their traditional.
There's always going to be those nightmare
folks. If you're going
for
in
every industry,
$40 million AE fee,
I've had to deal with them.
You're interviewing. It might be a month-long process. There's no instant
for large projects. That's what's kind of beautiful about it. Large projects, just like insurance or anything else, will always kind of have to have their traditional.
It's just like
if you're going
barely even want to write that proposal,
$40 million
unless it's a solo practitioner, but then they can't.
You're interviewing with it might be a month-long process. There's no instant quoting that.
So with the light industrial folks that are just cranking these things out, and can we make it accessible to them across the state where they're investing?
It's
different
just
states.
like people really barely even want to write that proposal. Unless it's a solo practitioner, but then they can't scale.
That's
with your projects if you're scaling.
With us, we stopped selling to small contractors because it was.
Can we make accessible to them across the state where they're investing?
It was such a hassle to deal with.
Engineers that are local,
they're way more. There's this weird thing in insurance where you do the same amount of work for a $40 million general contractor than you would for like a $500,000 revenue general contractor
to deal with.
And we kind of realized there's this weird thing in insurance. But if you were able to sort of automate and make it a lot more convenient, at least,
than you would like a $500,000
and build out instant quoting stuff. I think a lot of people have that. In insurance, we don't. We kind of
not worth it. But if you
we never set it up. We never really invested in that side. We prefer to do everything over the phone and in person. And I personally don't even quote insurance usually on the front end. I'm a big fan of broker selection.
I don't know. We never set it up. We never really invested in that side.
When it comes to small guys, I mean, there's no reason to get that
I personally don't even quote insurance usually on the front end. I'm a big fan of broker selection.
Common. We like to reach out to developers and say, hey, we're MEP.
When it comes
to
small
guys, I don't mess with MEP. I don't have any reason to talk to you, which is not really untrue, but it's kind of strange because a lot of developers are in that little sweet spot of insurance doesn't want to underwrite it.
We like to reach out to developers and say, hey, we're MEP. What we often get is, I don't mess with MEP.
If
I don't have
they
any reason to talk to you,
they don't have experience and they're new, but this happens a lot too.
It's kind of strange because a lot of developers are in that little
they can get that big one, and then they're not going to
insurance doesn't want to underwrite it,
work for you again. So PermitZIP just deliberately stays in a small project market.
Propose it,
but
if they do, they don't have experience
realize
and they're new,
not
or
necessarily scalable. The best scalable option is to allow people to be there temporarily.
Get that big one, and then they're not going to look back and do work for you.
200, 300 people, different vendors. Just
deliberately stays in a small
project. They can leave. So be it. Somebody else is going to back.
We really realize
you'll
that's
always
not
have a
necessarily
supply
scalable. The best scalable option is to allow people to be there temporarily,
services for these small projects. And when I say small, I mean like restaurants,
200, 300 people, different vendors. Some of them get
retail
the big project, they can leave.
Industrial,
so somebody else is going to backfill it.
Multifamily to some extent, because
you'll always have a supply of professionals
counter in terms of a commodity type of design
for these small projects. And when I say small, like restaurants,
it's also pretty high risk. And you do the insurance at
retail,
like
industrial,
too much multifamily. Is that true?
Multifamily to some extent because
you're underwriting
really
on the construction side,
over the counter in terms of a commodity type.
Well,
of design.
I mean, if they're changing their risk profile in some substantial way, it can swing. But I mean, with carriers, it really comes down to their appetite, because you might do that and it might actually make your risk more. I mean, it might be something they want more of
risk profile
on occasion, and in that case, if you've got a good agent,
with
he'll
carriers,
be working on negotiating the
their
premium
appetite,
down,
because you might do that and it might actually make your risk
are you
more
selling like
palatable. It
what kind of insurance are the contractors buying
more of
from you?
On occasion,
so general liability,
case,
commercial auto would be their fleet.
He'll be working on
workers comp for the employees, and then there's all these other coverages like in the marine for tools or
what
heavy
kind
equipment.
of insurance are the contractors buying from you?
So
and
general liability,
builder's risk
commercial auto
occasionally,
would be their
but that's
fleet,
more on the owner developer
workers'
side, I
comp
think,
for
where
the
they need that.
employees, and then there's all these other coverages.
Yeah, I mean,
like in
there's
the
a
marine
whole
for tools or
fleet
heavy
of different
equipment.
products that they might need.
And,
Usually, it
you know,
comes down to
builder's
what's
risk
required
occasionally,
by
but
you
that's
know an
more on
owner
the owner
or
developer side, I think, where
employer
they need
when
that.
they're putting something together. Contractors
yeah, I mean,
don't typically like to buy more
fleet of
coverages
different
than they need.
products that they
I
might
don't blame
need.
them.
Usually, it
Well,
comes
yeah,
down to
it's
what's
tough to
required
know.
by you know an owner or
There's so much there
employer
that I'm seeing
when they're
crosses
putting
over
something together.
risk in
Contractors
calculating a
don't
loan
typically
or the
like
interest
to
rate, which is the
buy
risk
more
premium, I
coverages
suppose.
than they need. And I
And
don't
then the
blame
actual
them.
Well, yeah,
insurance.
I mean, it's money.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough to
Dealing
know.
with money at the end of the day. But
there's so much there.
yeah, I don't know. It's
that I'm
interesting. There's a
seeing
loan
crosses
broker
over
down the
risk in
hall
calculating a loan
who
or the
started
interest rate,
getting
which is the
into
risk
commercial
premium, I
real estate
suppose.
insurance,
And
so
then
yeah,
the
he
actual
picked it up
insurance.
immediately.
Yeah.
Dealing with money at the end of the
Just
day.
immediately knew how it worked.
I
But yeah,
sometimes feel like
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
lines are
It's
so
interesting. There's a
blurred that they're
loan
like kind of
broker
speaking the same
down
thing. I guess Jason
down the hall
Dillard,
who started
Mr.
getting
Leslie,
into
when he
commercial real
talks to
estate
insurance folks, it's just
and
like
it's funny,
easy.
he picked it up
He totally
immediately.
gets everything about it, and it makes
Yeah.
sense because
He
he's
just
just
immediately knew how it worked. Yeah.
insanely
I
sharp
sometimes feel
with
like the lines are
the
so
finance
blurred
side.
that they're like
I mean,
kind
they're
of
so
speaking the same thing. I
closely
guess Jason
paralleled.
Dillard, Mr.
One
Leslie,
thing that
when he talks
was
to
suggested
insurance
to
folks,
us,
it's
so
just like
I guess
easy.
Sam,
He totally gets
one idea
everything
we have.
about
So
it.
we're
and
going
it
to
makes sense 'cause
originate
he's
notes.
just
One of the issue we
insanely
have
sharp
in
with
small project
the
and
finance
commercial
side.
development
I mean,
is
they're so closely
paying, getting paid
paralleled.
in general as a professional.
One thing that
So I got a
was
$10,000
suggested to us,
invoice.
so
The
I guess
industry says,
Sam,
I'll pay you when I get paid.
one
So
idea
if I'm
we
working
have,
for
so we're going to
architect,
originate
they'll pay me
notes.
whenever they get paid,
One of
even though my
the issue we
contract
have
does not
in
say
small
that.
project and
They'll
commercial
still do
development
that,
is
and so
paying,
it maybe
getting
takes
paid
me 30 days
in
or
general
60
as a
days to
professional.
perform the work, and
So
invoice
I
goes
have a
out.
$10,000
They pay
invoice.
late.
The industry says,
13,
I'll pay you when I get paid. So
now
if I'm working for
90-day or
architect,
120
they'll
day.
pay me whenever
If
they
you do
get
the
paid,
time value
even though my
money,
contract
you can
does
discount it,
not
and
say
we're
that.
basically giving
They'll
0%
still do
interest
that. And
rates.
so it maybe
With
takes me
0
30 days or
payments
60 days to perform the
for
work.
some
An invoice goes
arbitrary
out.
balloon payment,
They
do
pay
it
late.
whenever somebody wants to give it, and that's kind of normalized in
now
this
90 day or
construction industry.
120
So
day. If you do the
I
time value
also know
money,
that people
you can
take
discount it,
some hard
and we're
money loans in
basically
that
giving
situation
0%
as well.
interest
And
rates
so there is debt that is
with
being
0
used to
payments
buy professional services.
for some arbitrary balloon
And
payment.
that's
Do it
more
whenever
expensive than
somebody
0%
wants to
interest.
give it,
So
and that's kind of
we
normalized
basically
in
have this chasm between
construction industry.
0% interest
Right.
and
I
maybe
also know that people
16%
take
interest
some hard money
money
loans in that
that
situation
we can
as well.
fill and just do
so
owner
there is
financing.
debt that is being
And
used
so it's like,
to
hey,
buy
here's
professional
$250,000
services.
services,
And
these vendors
that's
are gonna
more
owner
expensive than
finance.
0%
Which option
interest.
do you
So
want? You want
we basically have this chasm between 0%
for
interest
this price
and
or
maybe
whatever,
16%
and then now
interest
we've
hard money
originated a loan.
that we can fill
And
and
if you
just
could
do
do
owner
that
financing.
at scale
And so it's like,
across
hey,
the country and
here's
just
$250,000
originate a
of
huge debt
services.
marketplace,
These
then you
vendors are going to
can
owner
bundle them
finance.
together.
Which option do you want? You want
And start
this
borrowing
many
against it or
months
selling them
for this
all
price
these
or
kind of things.
whatever.
And this is
And then
part
now
where Casey
we've
was schooling me
originated a
quite a
loan.
bit. But he had the
And if you
idea
could
of like,
do
well,
that
if you had, I don't know,
at
100 of these
scale
loans,
across the
I guess I
country
could
and just originate a huge
lend
debt marketplace,
50% of their
then you
total
can
value
bundle
as long
them
as you would
together
agree to,
and
when
start
one goes in
borrowing
default, swap
against
the
it or
other one
selling
underneath it
them, all these kind of things.
to
And
cover
this
it.
is art where
And
Casey
then I
was
was
schooling me quite a
imagining
bit.
that's
But
a
he had the
very
idea of like, well, if
programmable
you
thing.
had,
You could,
I don't know, 100 of
you
these
could
loans, I guess I could
have a loan
lend
be
50% of their total value
Let's
as
say you
long as you
have
would agree to
50
when one
notes
goes in default,
and somebody
swap
wants
the
to
other one
lend and they
underneath
say,
it
I want
to cover it.
25
And
of
then I was
those, I know
imagining
you can use to pay
that's
me
a
back.
very
The other
programmable thing.
25, I don't want you to
could
lend against anybody else. And I want
have
it
a
to be known
loan
in the
be
marketplace
accounted
that they
for.
can't be used as
Let's say you
collateral because they're
have
mine. So if
50
somebody
notes,
defaults in my little
and
pool
somebody
here,
wants to
I
lend,
know
and they
that this
say,
other
I
note's going
want
to come in and
25
backfill
of those
my
I
risk.
know you can use to pay
So
me
I thought
back.
that was a pretty
The other
clever way
25 I don't want you to
to
lend against
do
anybody
loan
else.
origination.
And I want it to
And
be known
then,
in the marketplace
if that
they
works,
can't
then you
be
have
used
this
as collateral because
huge
they're mine.
market of
So if somebody
notes
defaults in my little pool
backed
here,
by
I know that this
owner
other note's going
finance
to come in
notes that
and
also
backfill
could be sold
my risk.
and provide
So
liquidity.
I thought that was a pretty clever
So that's kind of
way
our way of
to
like
do
addressing
loan
this pay when paid
origination.
issue
And
that we
then
have.
if that
and
works,
creating
then
a
you have
financial
this
marketplace
huge market of
It
notes,
especially for the
backed
small
by
small
owner
projects,
finance
right?
notes
Yeah,
that also
that
could
makes
be
sense.
sold
I mean, cash
and
flow,
provide liquidity.
the whole
So that's
schedule
kind
of
of our way
payments is one of the
like
biggest
addressing
headaches
this payment
in any
payday issue that
construction
we have
project, from what I
and
understand.
creating a financial marketplace.
How's that work in insurance?
Especially for
It
the
disguised-
small.
Is it like a monthly
small
kind of
projects,
recurring revenue
right?
thing, or is
Yeah.
it one time?
That makes sense. I mean, cash flow.
So it depends.
The whole
With the
schedule
workers'
of
comp,
payments is one of the
it's
biggest
typically
headaches in any
monthly
construction
that the
project, from what
commission
I
pays
understand.
out. But when it
How's that work
comes
in
to
insurance?
liability,
Is it like a monthly?
I mean,
kind
it'll
of
depend
recurring
on the
revenue
carrier,
thing, or is
but
it one time?
typically we get
So it
paid
depends.
straight away
With
when it gets,
workers'
because it gets
comp,
financed.
it's
There's almost always
typically
an outside
monthly
financing
that the
party,
commission
and we just
pays
get our
out,
commission right up front.
But when it comes to
Yeah.
liability, I mean, it'll
But yeah,
depend
so
on the carrier.
when it comes
but
to
typically
construction
we get
projects, this
paid
is one of
straight
the
away,
issues
when it
is
gets,
that
gets
the
financed. There's always
on
an
the
outside
insurance end, the
financing party,
brokers,
and we
and
just get
there's
our
various middlemen where this is the case. They're not really incentivized to act with urgency. So when there is an insurance hang up. Something's preventing a project from going through. I don't know how often this happens on small projects, probably more so in the larger ones. Everyone just kind of drags their feet. Very adamant that they need those. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it can delay the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a minefield. I don't know if that's really solvable beyond just finding someone who knows your business. Like if you're working with someone who doesn't understand the construction industry and they're handling your construction insurance package, they're not going to be as sympathetic to that process. But if you have someone who's actually good at what they're doing and they know more or less, okay, this project, we have this window, we need to get things done.
Yeah.
Then they're more likely to twist some fingers, twist some arms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of like solving a problem in a place nobody wants to be, is what we're up to. I mean, a lot of people say that's insane and silly. Like, just go to the markets that already have it all figured out. But I guess we're a little bit crazy and are here, and it's starting to get some pretty serious levels of interest. And I'm gonna I know you don't see this, but I'm going to Carter Phil. I'm sharing the screen of the instant quote so we can actually show people that are tuned in. So Sam, we're in the spaces, but we're also broadcasting a video stream where I'm sharing my screen, which is our little hybrid way to riff with other people in different places. But
I'm on the website right now.
Cool.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and you could see the if you just want to watch or whatever on my screen, you could actually check it out on Twitter. It's streaming to it right now. But I'm going to show everybody that's watching the video right now the administrative side of how we actually set it up, so you can kind of see what it looks like. Because we have some new features. Phil Carter, I guess we could just talk through them. One is bringing back to life the guaranteed 2 weeks or it's free. But let's just show folks how we price. All right, I'm opening it up. What do you guys want to look at? Restaurant, maybe?
Yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah. I'm trying to make this visible to everybody tuned in. There we go. If you're watching and it's hard to see, just let me know. I'm going to do this view. There we go. Trying to find the best view for everybody. All right, so we have the ability to create spaces and customize, so we can create any market we want. And essentially what we have is the baseline pricing starts at a square footage, a price per square foot. So what we have it configured, and we can change this. Right now it's 25 cents per square foot per trade. But, if it's too cheap, we just increase the price globally. And then there's a setup fee that we say, so it's like $600 for each trade, and each trade can decide. And that is kind of covering the fact that there's a minimum amount of effort for any project, no matter what. I'm not going to sell something for 50 cents if it's 2 square feet. We'll get that, like a 50 square foot bathroom renovation or something. So that $600 is there per trade to just be like, all right, we're going to have to put sheets together a few hours, no matter what. And then you go into each space. So then you can say, all right, let's figure out how a restaurant's priced. So the restaurant gets an additional base fee per trade of $250 because it's more complicated, which is like, if any math nerds are out there, it's like it's like offsetting on the Y axis to just pump it up a little bit. And then we get to 2 versions of pricing, and I'm going to open up on my screen what the curve looks like for folks. And I won't show too long, but it's a pretty picture. This is basically an inverse exponent curve that's been abstracted. And what's happening is, as the square footage approaches infinity, then you essentially get to a maximum discount of price per square foot. So a warehouse is a good example of a 300,000 square foot warehouse is going to reach our very baseline cheap per square foot, because a huge warehouse, we don't need that much more design fee for. We're really just going to probably just draw one of the bays and say, repeat that for everything. So this curve allows you to get the higher price on the retail side on the smaller projects, and it transitions into the wholesale price as you go to the max. And then you can set, I won't go over these parameters for people watching, but just these are the parameters that allow you to change where the bend happens and when these things occur. So then once we have that information, we punch it in on the instant quote, and there it is, and it's done. And we can add, go to restaurant. Now we have a kitchen that's priced, a dining area in a restaurant. We have a bar. So our restaurants have a back of house and restrooms, and each of these have a different pricing curve, and they all sum up. And when you go to our website to get the instant quote, it's assuming that we can configure the percentages. We're saying, hey, we're going to assume most restaurants have 10% kitchen, 70% dining, 5% bar, and 15% back of house. Now, here's what's cool if you're listening. If you go to PermitZIP.app, you can actually go in and customize your own proposals even further. And so the instant quote's making this generalized assumption of what your restaurant's going to be built from. And then when we send you the proposal, it'll summarize what our assumptions are. And like, we just take the price. Like, we don't really ever, it's dollar cost averaging. It takes us more time to try to perfect this than to, you know what I mean? And then here's a new feature. This is awesome. This is going to eventually be a curve, but if you can, oh no, hold on. I'm on the wrong. I thought I was sharing the other screen. Here we go. All right. If you're watching now, I'm back over to the restaurant pricing. Check out this new feature. You can see the price. This is eventually going to be that curve embedded into the app. Oh no, my mouse is freaking out. There we go. All right, look at this. Shout out to the gadget engineering team, software team that we have. But you can say, all right, I've done this crazy complex curve, but let me flex this. Now, you guys as the buyer don't get to see this, but the configurer, if you're setting this up for your own firm, you can kind of go left and right and just say, all right, well, what would a 3,000 square foot restaurant be? Okay, get your gut check going. 16,000 square foot restaurant, it's 20 grand. And so you can really tune your pricing. The next iteration that'll be out soon will be a graph that shows you each of the components of the restaurant and their curves adding all the way up. So you can just see left to right how your pricing schema looks very quickly. And so if we can give that to, I mean, the civil, phase 1, phase 2 folks, the people doing parking, the people doing structural, architectural, and basically it's the same thing. Everything ultimately in small projects comes down to area. Even though architects are obsessed with percentage of construction fee, like in this market, that's not what we're doing. We're just like, how big is the thing? How big is this project? You know, and get a price and get going and get the permits out. So yeah, that's a mile high view of what we can do on the back end of this. If you're tuning in, you want some more information, or if you want to be on the waiting list for the Marketplace app to give you access to this for your firm, just send us a DM. But yeah, so Sam, that's kind of, you're not seeing it, but I'm showing it over here while I talk through it with everybody listening. That's what we've built so far. Oh, and a proposal editor.
Yeah, I pulled up your stream. I wasn't expecting to see Desmos since college.
Oh, dude, Desmos is my favorite. That's how we tune our curves for now. But okay, so yeah, we use Desmos to design the curve, and then I can send you a link to this if you want. But then we wrote it into the program the parameters Desmos is using over on the other side. And so now the next final release that's coming out soon is the connection of the two, like make our own Desmos internal to the app to allow the user pricing to have it more of an interactive feeling instead of this kind of really kind of Windows 3.1 version of it. But it's functionally working. Like we're creating the curve. We're just now adding the user interface and the feedback part of it on the next release. And so by the time it gets to the marketplace, engineers and other folks will have that feature. And then we have, this is cool, the proposal editor, if you're still watching. Check this out. So now everybody can write their own contracts. And it's dynamically parsing the data that comes from the proposal, the project name, the address, and it has the ability for people to put logical statements. So these are our terms and conditions, but everybody's going to have their own standard contracts. So the professional services people can put their inclusions, their exclusions, all that kind of stuff. And then what we're doing is pulling in, you can see on the right-hand side of this, it's pulling in what was from the instant quote, 1,100 square feet, brewing coffee, an office, this, you know, assumptions for the area sizes of all these things, and then the total price. And if there was a promo code, which we have, then it'll show promo code TEST10 giving a $2,500 discount. And if you're originating a loan, it'll have the loan terms and conditions. And if you're buying insurance, It'll have the insurance terms and conditions. So we are
now that bit interests me. So when you're talking about insurance, specifically in reference to small projects, is it the builder's risk? Like the actual, is this coverage per project? Is that the idea?
Well, that's for you to help me understand.
I have to wonder, Sam, you were mentioning earlier about most of the time it's determined by whoever is contracting with them, who's paying them to do the work. They'll have certain requirements. So I wonder if that is a more simple way to look at it, as the person who's putting together this team and trying to get financing to pay for it in the first place is that person who would be saying, I need you to have this kind of coverage. So I wonder if there's a connection there between the two.
So one thing that could potentially happen, if you found probably a smaller carrier, probably not one with a super great financial rating, but if you were able to find a carrier that was willing to play ball, or maybe there are these companies called wholesale brokers, MGAs, they probably could work with you to instant quote things to actually do that. But as far as what typically happens, you could get an instant application. So let's say your project is going to need $1 million, $2 million limits for a liability policy. Well, you could put together an instant application for insurance, and that could get sent to multiple different carriers. Or if you were looking for an actual quote on the insurance that could instantly be procured, there are companies that could do that, that would integrate with you. And I don't know exactly how that would all work on their E&O. I mean, there's carriers typically don't want the actual customer putting in all the information, because it creates liability for them if something's wrong. And so they like to offset that by using a brokerage. And then if the insured isn't actually covered for their operations, they can just be like, all right, well, that was your broker's job. Make a claim on him.
Yeah.
So there may be an issue there, but yeah, if you found someone willing to go to bat, like for instance, we do a lot of aviation. It's our company's kind of split into two halves. We've got the construction, and then we do an aviation side, which is a lot of rotor wing helicopters and like utility firefighting operations. And on that side, there's this aviation company that sells small helicopters called Robinson, and they do a lot of pleasure and business. Like they just sell people personal helicopters, and the coverage for that can be really tough to obtain. So we've been in talks with an insurance company that might set up something very much like that, where people could get an instant quote on coverage. It would only be through them, but there's so few options that people are typically, I mean, it would probably be the only option anyway. And they could just, instantly underwrite it right there based on what the person's saying.
Well, just like Airbnb, this would work very similarly, where the prices are there. Both parties would still have to ultimately agree, just like when you book, but we're just trying to create as low friction as possible. Like, let's say, for example, a developer wants to buy, but they got a 2-star rating because of the reviews. Then you're like, well, for one, you might be able to just automatically adjust your price to account for that risk. But otherwise, maybe you just don't do it. Like, hey, I can't work with you here. Same with the insurance. So while it's an instant quote, it could still maybe be instant quoted, but then go for the final approval make sure the scope is right, and there's you clear. If we're talking about like title, for example, like making sure the title's clear. If you were using a security like a mortgage-backed security situation, I mean, a traditional mortgage where you have to go through that process of figuring out the title's good to go. I don't know much about it, but that was something Casey was talking about. Well, you could do it if you get these things backed by the real estate, but then there's this huge process of finding out, are there liens against it? And I'm like, yeah, that's possible. And maybe as you get to a threshold of dollars, we get there, but maybe, like you said, it's an instant application because you're already gathering the data. And maybe there's those enterprising insurance companies that will put a price to it. And that'll be the more competitive one. You'll get more deals because the ones that are putting the numbers out there are more likely to get a purchase, which is, what we've shown as true for our MEP. People just go with us, even if it's more expensive, just because we're the one that actually has a price in front of them. And we don't care. We're dollar cost averaging. We know we're making our profit, except for all of the ones we gave away for 50% when we started being on Twitter to show people what we do. Those ones we're not making profit on, but
right. That's cool. Yeah, it's the convenience of it.
Yeah.
If you did integrate insurance into this in any way, it would probably be like a small contractor that doesn't already have it. Typically, they're already going to have coverage, and the issue will be that they don't have enough because they really cheaped out.
What about the other
if it's
side?
A contractor,
oh, sorry. Go
other
ahead.
side.
Go ahead. Can you finish what you're saying there? The contractor.
Yeah. So if they've never purchased it before at all, then if you were to have that instant application on there, if you were to integrate that, you should absolutely figure out some kind of referral deal with whoever you work with on the commission, because they'd be more than happy to. But you definitely could do it, and there are folks that would be really for those first time contractors. The market's always changing for that. The carriers who are kind of on top and are giving out the best rates, they only last for around 2 to 3 years before the claims catch up to them.
Yeah.
But they come and go. It's a real phenomenon.
That which is very similar to what we have on the small projects. They come and go for different reasons, but probably similar. Some people just can't hang, or they're done trying to be in that market because it's so unstable. Or they finally get enough work where they can get the big contracts and get more stable revenue and less risky revenue, and so they leave the market. Why hang out here where it's so dangerous? So very similar kind of problems that professionals have offering the engineering services that it sounds like insurance has, which is just an unexpected discovery in this conversation for me. What about?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what if we had? This is what Cat Risk was talking to me about. What if we took the entire marketplace and sold it a policy, and then it could sell it the insurance to the vendors? So we have all these maybe mom and pop small AE services people, solo practitioners licensing a laptop. And is there a way that you could somehow aggregate feeding your underwriting constant information about what's being under contract and be getting a premium for the entire marketplace? Blend all the risk, and then we could sell it through to people to subscribe to.
Are you familiar with PEOs?
No.
So PEOs, I believe it stands for payroll.
Blend all the risk, and then we could sell it through to people to subscribe to.
But they basically manage payroll, and usually they'll do workers' comp and HR,
so PEOs,
throw it all in.
I believe it stands for payroll.
For small, that's it, professional employer organization. And we work with one for small
they basically
business,
manage payroll,
and how it was explained to us. What they do, they bring you on, they do your payroll
for small,
and then they sell you the workers' comp. What they have is a master insurance policy
for small business
that they've sort of contracted through one of the major
what they do.
insurance
They bring
carriers,
you on, they
could
do
be
your
like Chubb
payroll
or AIG or something.
And then they sell
and then
you
what ends up
the
happening
workers'
is
comp.
when
What
they
have is a
manage the
master
payroll for the
insurance
company that's coming
policy
on, they
they've
list them
sort of
as
contracted
employees
through
of
one
their
the major
organization
insurance
and
carriers,
basically
could be
give them like a
Chubb or
sub
AIG
policy
or
off of the
something.
main policy.
And then what
So,
ends up happening is when they
it's
the
weird. It's
payroll for the
kind of like
company
what you're
that's coming
talking about. There's a
on,
master
they
insurance
list them
policy that
as employees of
everyone's
their
just buying like
organization,
pieces of.
and
If that makes
basically give them
sense.
like a sub policy
Yeah.
off of the main policy.
It
I'm
does,
sure someone
sort of.
could figure that out for
it's
for
weird.
what
It's
you're
kind
doing,
of like what
but
you're
it
talking
would
about. There's a
be
master
a feat
insurance
because you'd need to
policy
get
that
a really
everyone's-
large company to bite.
Yeah.
Insurance companies very risk averse. So,
Yeah, well, naturally, or risk exact.
Yeah.
Like they're fine if they're at risk as long as they know the exact amount of it.
Oh yeah, and actually, what I've found recently, something of a fascination with the uninsurable risks. In quotation marks, stuff that's really tough to cover. Like I love logging as an industry, but I also love it from the insurance perspective because it's very political and difficult to obtain coverage. You have to go to companies in London to try to cover some small logging operation in Oregon.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole kind of weird web to it, and I love that stuff. But at the end of the day, nothing is really uninsurable. I've found it's just expensive. Can you afford it? You can get someone to write a policy,
Yeah.
but will you actually be able to pay for it at the end of the day? is another matter entirely.
Yeah, like sure, I'll insure your logging company for $20 million a day.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah,
Covered. Yeah, that's interesting. Phil Carter, what, you guys have any thoughts on any of this? I've been hogging the mic.
No, it's just it's fascinating. I'm glad you jumped on, Sam, because it seems like every time we do a space, we have somebody who's in just a little bit different of a sector, than we talked to before. And the whole reason we're doing any of this is just because no matter if we're 1 or 3 clicks away from people in this pipeline of the work that's being done and buildings getting built, there's just so much to know, and knowing makes us so much more effective at collaborating. So yeah, I really appreciate you jumping on and introducing a new world to us on here today.
Yeah, that's kind of my goal. I hopped on X pretty recently, or Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Mr. Leslie.
there's some drama there over here.
Jump across the fence.
But
yeah,
that's kind of with construction.
goal.
With construction specifically, it's a very mystifying process. A lot of contractors don't trust the procurement process at all. They don't trust brokers at all. So, and what I found is that's not usually
with construction
it is downstream
mystifying
from the agent, but it's because it's just not transparent. Like brokers in this space
procurement
aren't doing a great job at all of educating.
And what I found is that's
their
not
prospects,
usually,
their clients,
it is
how the
downstream
process
from
actually works.
from the agent.
They just kind of quote everything.
Like brokers
and in
this
construction,
space
that's
aren't doing a great job
completely
at all.
It's a failing strategy to quote commercial
their
insurance
prospects,
with
their
multiple
clients
brokers
on how
because,
the process actually
what they don't
works.
realize is all
They
these
just
agents
kind
have
of
the
quote
exact same
everything.
carrier access. We're all
And in
fishing out of the
construction,
same pool. So it's not
completely-
actually how you
it's a
get
failing
better
strategy
pricing is not
to quote
actually by
commercial insurance
approaching
with
multiple brokers.
because
It's by working
what
with
they
one
don't
who's
realize
just a
is all these
specialist
agents have
and
the
can
exact
actually
same carrier
negotiate the best
access.
terms.
We're all fishing out
Because what
of
ends
the
up
same
happening is
pool.
you can only
So
submit
it's not
with one
actually
carrier.
how you get better
Um,
pricing is
So if
not
you're working with
actually
multiple
by
different
approaching
brokers,
multiple
they're
brokers.
blocking different
It's by
markets,
working with
and
one
the
who's just a
actual marketplace
specialist
can't
and
compete.
can actually negotiate
Instead, you've
the
got
best
brokers
terms.
who are all hiding
Because
the
what ends up
different
happening
quotes.
is you can
they're
only submit with one
kind
carrier.
of picking and choosing which option to show
So
you.
if you're working with
And the
multiple
actual
different brokers,
marketplace,
they're
these underwriters
blocking
can't go,
different
okay,
markets,
this
and
carrier is
the
coming in
actual
at this price,
marketplace
this carrier is
can't
coming in at this
compete.
price. We can
Instead,
do
you've
this,
got
we can do
brokers
this.
who are all
They're not
hiding the different
seeing any of
quotes.
that.
They're kind of picking and choosing
And
which
everything's
option
just
to
getting
show
blocked
you.
up. So
And the actual marketplace,
my goal is
these
kind of to go
underwriters
in
can't
and
go,
show
okay,
people,
this carrier
hey,
is
look,
coming
there's
in
a
at
better
this
way.
price, this carrier is coming in at this
Yeah,
price.
It's not how it
We
should
can do
work.
this, we
Reminds me
can
of
do
Mr.
this.
Groves'
They're not seeing any of that.
frustration with the not being able to find out how much like
everything's just getting
HVAC
blocked up.
contractors
So
equipment is.
my goal is
Like
kind of to
everybody
go
holding
in and show
prices
people,
everywhere so close
hey,
to
look,
their
there's a
chest.
better way.
Yeah,
It's
holding
not
it
how it
hostage.
should
And there's
work.
no reason to.
Reminds me of Mr. Groves.
There's just no
Frustration
reason
with
to.
the not being able to find out how
It's
much
just
like
self-serving.
HVAC contractors equipment is. It's like
Yeah,
But
everybody
I
holding
think
prices everywhere so close to
I
their chest.
think the problem
holding it
is
hostage,
at
and there's
the
no
end of the
reason
day
to.
is in the customers,
Yeah.
not
There's just no
enough
reason
people demanding that information.
It's just self-serving.
And that's why the system works
Yeah,
as
it's a
it is.
defense
But I
mechanism.
think all the industries, including insurance,
I think the problem
HVAC,
is
any
at the end of
other
the day
trades,
is
whatever
in
you
the
name it.
customers, not
So I think the
people
problem,
demanding that
like
information.
what you guys are saying, is
And
great.
that's why
But
the system works
essentially,
as it is.
why
in
would you
all the
reward?
industries,
What's
including
the what's the
insurance,
ultimate goal?
HVAC,
Who
any
benefits out
other
of this?
trades,
I mean,
whatever you
okay,
name it.
the consumers benefit.
So I
But
think the problem,
now we're
like
talking
what
about
you guys are
consumer.
saying is great,
Somebody else did the
but
job for the consumer.
essentially, why would you reward? What's
What do
the
you mean?
What's the
what's the
benefit?
ultimate goal?
No,
Who benefits out of
you
this?
lowered
I
the
mean,
prices.
okay, the
Like for
consumers
example, I
benefit,
can actually.
but
Speaking of
now we're
Casey,
talking
I
about
just had you just
consumer.
sent me a quote from
Somebody
metal
else
building.
did the
I just
job for the
quoted him another
consumer.
building
Yeah.
at like half of the price
What's the
what he was
benefit?
getting.
No, you
However,
lowered the prices.
for
Like,
example, the
I
information you
can
have and knowledge you
actually,
have,
speaking of Casey,
Sam
I
has
just
in
had you
insurance,
just
for
sent me a
example,
quote for
so he's
metal
an
building. I
expert.
just quoted him
He
another
has
building
spent a lot of time
at
on
like
it
half of
and
the price
has a lot of
what he was
experience in it.
getting.
That knowledge worth some money.
However,
So now what you guys are talking about, oh, we're going to give it access to people just to have this.
So he's an expert.
So now they have
spent
transparency.
a lot of time on it, and
but the consumer side,
that knowledge worth
one
some
consumer,
money.
let's say,
So now what you guys
I'm
are
an
talking about,
educated
oh, we're
consumer
going
in
to give it
this
access
field.
to people just to
Let's say Sam is
have
an educated
this.
consumer in insurance.
So now
So
they
if
have
we have partners in the
transparency.
deal, I know have the
But
best insurance
consumer
possible that
side,
will cover
consumer-
everything,
con-
and
one
also
consumer,
that will
let's say,
be financially
I'm an
viable.
educated consumer
Now,
in this
if
field.
I don't have Sam as a partner, let's say,
Sam
or
is
a person
educated
of a
consumer
Sam
in
caliber,
insurance.
and I'm getting
So if we
insurance,
have
I'm
partners in the
clueless.
deal, I
However,
know have the best insurance possible.
If I get
that will cover
overcharged, then I'm
everything,
okay with
and
that
also
price.
that will be financially
That's my
viable.
reward for being
Now,
ignorant in that space.
I don't have Sam as a
So
partner.
the whole
let's say,
concept
or
of,
a
like
person
if
of a
I
Sam
sell you a car
caliber,
for
and I'm getting
$10,000
insurance, I'm
and you say,
clueless.
okay,
However,
and let's say Sam comes
if
in
I
and
get
says, oh, I'm not
overcharged,
willing
then
to
I'm
pay
okay with that
10,000,
price.
but and I sold it
That's my
to him
reward
the
for
same car
being
for
ignorant in
7K.
that
Now the
space.
question is,
So the whole
did I screw
concept of,
Kenny over
like if
for
I sell you a
3K,
car for
or did
$10,000
Sam
and you say
get the value
okay,
because he knows
and
the
let's
market
say
and
Sam
he's a
comes in and
shrewd
says, oh, I'm not
negotiator?
willing to pay 10,000.
So that's the balance.
And I
And when
sold
you
it
start
to
giving
him the
away
same car for
things,
7K.
no,
Now
I
the
don't want to say
question
for
is,
free, but
did I screw Kenny
unjust.
over for 3K?
Like
or
if
did
somebody's willing to
Sam
pay
get the
$200,000
value because he
for
knows the market
10,000
and
square
he is
feet
a
of
shrewd
concrete,
negotiator?
they deserve
So
that
that's
price.
the balance. And
Now,
when
if
you
I
start
got it
giving
done for
away
90K,
things, I don't
now
wanna say
did the
for free,
contractor
but
screw that person, or
unjust.
did I win because
Like
I
if
have a
somebody's willing
market
to pay
knowledge and spend enough time and
$200,000 for
acquired the
10,000 square
expertise
feet of
of
concrete,
people in this
they
field, for
deserve that
example?
price.
Don't give away your secrets.
Because
I
if
got in
got it
trouble
done
for
for
almost doing that on
90K,
a Twitter tweet
now
the other
did the
day.
contractor screw that person,
There you
or
go.
did I win because
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
I'm no
market
good at
knowledge and
that.
spend
I
enough
think I
time
give
and
away
acquired
too
the
much,
expertise
frankly.
of people in this field, for example?
Maybe I should
Don't give
maybe
away
I
your
should
secrets,
keep a
Art.
little
I got
more
in
close
trouble
to
for
home. But
almost
my
doing that on a
general
Twitter
philosophy
tweet
is
the other day.
if I
There you
share
go.
Yeah,
if I
I'm
share
no
more
good at that. I
information
think
with
I give
people
away
and
too
educate
much,
the end
frankly.
consumer for what I'm doing, which would be
Maybe I
contractors.
should keep a little more close to
I'm
home. But
building
my
like a level
general
of trust
philosophy is
where if something does go
if I
south
share
with them and they're looking
if
for a
I
change
share
of
more
agents,
information with people
then
and
my
educate
name
the
will
end
come to mind.
consumer for what I'm doing,
That's the hope.
which would be
Yeah.
contractors.
For sure.
And I have yet to see
I'm
that. I mean, this is
building
a
like a
very
level of
recent
trust
endeavor for
where if
me,
something does go
joining
south
Twitter and
with
really just
them
building up
and they're
a
looking
social
for a
media
change of
presence at all.
agents,
But I've met a lot
then,
of cool people
my name
from
will
it.
come to
I've met
mind.
a lot of
That's
business
the
owners
hope.
in the industry that I work
And
with.
I
a lot
haven't
of
I have
different
yet to see that. I mean, this is a very
electricians,
recent endeavor for
HVAC,
me
and
joining
whatnot.
Twitter and really just building up
I've
a
learned a
social
lot
media
too.
presence at
I mean,
all.
about their
But I've
businesses
met a lot of
that I
cool
didn't
people
know.
from
Just
it. I've met a lot
blindsided
of
working
business
on
owners in the
construction
industry
insurance.
that
I've learned
that
more
I
about
work
the
with, a lot
construction
of different
process
contractors,
than
electricians, HVAC,
than I
and
knew
whatnot.
previously, which has made
I've
me
learned
an
a
even
lot
better
too.
professional
about
in
their
my
businesses
corner.
that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's been cool.
Blindsided working
I
on
like the
construction
hey Peter,
insurance.
welcome.
I've learned more about
I'll
the
open the mic up
construction
for you real quick.
process
I wanted to
than
on Art.
you're
right. It's I like
previously,
the way
which
you
is
worded it though.
made
That's
me
my
an
reward
even
for
better
being ignorant in
professional
that space.
in my corner. So
There's your present for being
like
ignorant.
hey,
and I
Peter,
really
welcome.
like your
No,
approach
because
I'll open the mic
on
up
that.
for you
because
real
we
quick.
have this concept of
on
fairness. What is fair?
You're right.
Yeah.
It's
And
I like the
fair
way
is
you
what
worded it
somebody's
though.
willing to
That's
pay
my
for. You're
reward
not
for being
holding guns
ignorant
to
in
that
that
person's
space.
head saying like, hey, you have to
That's
pay
true.
this.
There's your
So
present
because
for being ignorant.
it's like
And
the
I
whole
really like
thing
your
like
approach
political
Because we
on
have
that.
this
from
concept of fairness.
pricing
What is
everywhere.
fair?
It's like, oh, but
And
this is
Yeah.
not
fair is
fair
what
to those
somebody's willing
people.
to pay
No,
for. You're
it's
not
fair.
holding
They are
gun to
paying
that
the
person's
price
head
based on
saying
their
like, hey,
knowledge.
you have to
That's
pay
true.
this.
It's
Yeah.
always fair.
So
If a contract, because
it's
my
like the whole
former
thing,
business
like
partner gets
political
really upset
spectrum,
when somebody quotes him
pricing
super high
everywhere.
price.
It's
Like,
like,
oh my God,
but
I could
this
do
is
this
not
for
fair to those
$2, you
people.
know? And he
No,
quoted me
it's
$50.
fair. They are
What
paying
the
the
hell?
price
I
based
got
on
that
my
vibe.
knowledge.
What
It's always fair.
what I tell
If
him,
a contract, because
I say, listen,
my
you
former business partner gets
have
really
this
upset
knowledge
when
and
somebody
he's
quotes
willing
him
to
super high
offer you
price.
this
Like, oh
product.
my God,
He's
they can
asking
do
this
this for
much. You don't have to
$2,
pay
you
for
know,
it.
and he
Don't
quoted
get
me
upset for
50.
somebody
What the
asking
hell? But
too much
got
or
that
too
vibe.
little.
Yeah.
what I
Because
tell him,
again,
let's
that's why
say,
I don't
listen,
ask for quotes.
you
I
submit the budget knowledge, and I say my budget is X, and so what can you do for me?
That's the secret I got in trouble for saying. Art slapped my hand, but I love that strategy.
Or too little.
Spending time to become familiar with
again,
that space
that's
and
why
say,
I
all
don't
right,
ask for
I've done enough
quotes.
research to know what it should
submit the budget.
price. So I'm going to say,
my budget is X, and so
here's
what
my
can you
budget.
do for me?
How's
That's the
that work?
secret I
Hey,
got in
Peter,
trouble
welcome
for saying.
to the
Art
show.
slapped my hand,
Peter,
but I love
Breck?
that
What's up,
strategy.
guys?
Spending time to become familiar with
I
that
love this guy.
space and say, all right,
I-
I've done enough research to know what
How's
it
it
should
going, man?
price. So I'm going to say,
I'm doing all right. I saw
Here's
Sam
my
was,
budget.
was talking, and
How does that
some
work?
guy that
Hey, Peter,
you
welcome
can't shut up. So I was
to
like,
the
I'll just
show.
jump on and say, hey.
I love
Welcome
this
to the
guy.
show. We are live streaming to a video too, where I basically
how's it going,
tried
man?
doing this fun
I'm
thing
doing
where
all right. I saw
on the
Sam was,
video
was
when we're riffing like
talking,
this, I
and
show
some
who's
guy
in
that,
the spaces
can't shut up,
to
so I was
whoever's
like, I'll
tuning
just
in,
jump
and
on
then we're
today.
on YouTube and all these other people so they can ask questions. So if you're a nerd and you like what we're
Welcome to
talking
the show.
about,
We are
we
live
got a lot of
streaming to a
experts
video
here
too,
talking just generally
I
about commercial real
basically
estate
tried
from
doing
all
this fun
angles.
thing where
Peter,
on the
why
video
don't you tell us
when we're
just a
riffing
quick,
like
looks
this,
like
I show
another
who's in the
commercial insurance
spaces
broker.
to whoever's tuning
Welcome.
in, and then we're on
Yeah,
YouTube
I'm
and
a
all
little
these other people so they
different.
can ask
I
questions.
do
So
some
if you're a
CRE
nerd
stuff.
and you like what we're talking
you know,
about, ask.
if I
There are a
have
lot of
to, but
experts here
most of the time
talking
I'm
just
oil and
generally
gas,
about
and then
commercial real estate from
I
all
insure
angles.
coffee shops for fun.
Peter, why
So
don't you tell us just a quick, looks
kind
like
of a weird
another
approach. But
commercial
yeah, oil
insurance
and gas
broker.
companies in Texas,
Welcome.
throughout
Yeah,
the
I'm a
country,
little
and
different.
just
I
independent
do
shops
some
all over.
CRE
So
stuff.
it's fun.
That reminds me of
if I have to, but most
Mr.
of the
Groves.
time
I
I'm
was
oil and
talking
gas,
to
and
Casey, and he
I
was
insure coffee shops
when lenders
for
talk
fun.
about what
So
they'll
kind of a weird approach. But yeah,
lend
oil and
against, they
gas
usually
companies
talk
in
about, do I
Texas,
want to
throughout the
foreclose? Do I
country,
want to own
and
the thing? And so
independent
his
shops
phrase,
all
I
over.
guess, I
So
forget
it's fun.
what he said, but it was something
That
like,
reminds me of
what do I care about mineral rights
Mr. Groves. I was talking
on
to
Mars or
Casey,
something,
and he was,
to that end of
when
if
lenders
that's what the
talk about
security
what
is, like,
they'll
I don't want to foreclose and own
are
those
lend
minerals.
against, they usually
But
talk
that's
about, do I
is
want
that
to
what
foreclose?
you're in? Is the oil and gas? Is that what mineral rights is? Like, I've just heard that word recently a lot. I
What
have
do I
no
care about
idea
mineral
anything
rights
about it.
on Mars or something?
Yeah, I mean, there's
to that
you'll
end
have
of
like
if that's what the
landmen,
security is.
operators
Like, I don't want to
go
foreclose and own
get the
those
rights to
minerals.
the land, right?
But
And
that's
they
is
want
that
to
what
obviously get the
you're
minerals.
in? Is
In
the
my
oil and
case, I
gas? Is
don't
that what
focus
mineral
on
rights
those
is? Like,
as
I've
much as
just
those
heard that
guys are
word
looking for
recently a
oil and
lot. I
gas
have
and
no
like
idea anything about it.
onshore, and then
Yeah, I
service
mean, you'll
those
have like
those
landmen,
operators. So
operators.
What about people that
but
cut
yeah,
down
get
trees?
the rights to the land, right? And then they want to obviously get
No,
the
not
minerals.
Gotta go to
In
Europe.
my case,
really.
I
A
don't
natural
focus
resource
on
my guys are
those
going
as
for.
much as those guys looking for oil and gas.
No,
and,
I
like,
think you go
onshore
to
and
Lloyd's for
guys that
oil and gas
service
stuff,
those
don't you, Peter?
operators. So.
Yeah, quite
Is
a
that-
bit.
What about
Yeah,
people
a
that
lot
cut down
of
trees?
Lloyd's conversations, but honestly,
no, not
we've
really.
seen
Gotta
a
go to
lot of
Europe.
carriers,
No, I
here in the
think
States actually kind of
you
stepping up
go to
for it, 'cause
Lloyd's for
there's a
oil and
lot of
gas
money
stuff,
to be
don't
made,
you, Peter?
and if you have the
quite a
right
bit.
risk management in place, right, they're
but
not
honestly,
terrible risks to take over.
We've seen a
So
lot of carriers. Yeah, I was telling them that logging, you have to go to Lloyd's
here
of
in the
London.
States actually kind of stepping up for it,
Pretty
'cause
commonly.
there's a lot
The
of
only
money
people
to
who
be
would touch
made,
it.
and if you have the right
Yeah, it's
risk management
Lloyd's
in
is fun. I
place,
mean,
right,
when you
they're
get into
not
that
terrible
world,
risks
it's
to
like
take over. So
everyone that works
Yeah,
with
I was
Lloyd's,
telling
there's like
them
a
that
pedigree,
logging,
right?
you
They're
have to
like
go to
third,
Lloyd's
fourth,
of
fifth
London,
generation insurance broker in the
pretty
family that
commonly.
has a
People
seat
would
at
touch
Lloyd's.
it.
It's really it's a whole different world of insurance
Lloyd's
compared
is
to
fun.
what
I mean, when
most
you get into that
brokers
world,
here are used
it's
to.
like
I've been
everyone
underwriting
that
logs
works with
since
Lloyd's is
I
like a
can
pedigree, right?
remember.
They're like third, fourth, fifth generation insurance broker in the family.
Logging
that
at
has a seat at
Lloyd's of
Lloyd's.
London.
It's really it's a whole different
Yeah.
world of insurance.
Who would have
compared
known?
to what
And they haven't even
most,
seen trees
brokers
over
here
there. They don't know what they
Yeah,
are.
they
They've
don't
only
even know
got
what
bushes.
Underwriting
Yeah,
logs
man, they don't even know
since
what it
I
looks like.
can
Might as
remember.
well be, mineral rights on Mars.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
logging at Lloyd's of London.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who
And
would've
they haven't
known?
even
We,
seen trees over there. They
Peter, I don't know if you know much
Yeah,
about
they
us,
don't even
but
know
Phil
what
Carter
trees
and I were all partners
Yeah,
at
man, they
PermitZIP,
don't even know what
and
it
we
looks like.
founded,
Might
I
as well
founded the
be,
company a while back.
mineral
and
rights on
during
Mars.
furloughs and all this,
Yeah.
I won't tell you the whole story, but we're engineers. And
Exactly.
generally
That's crazy.
speaking, the least interesting, I
Yeah,
think,
we,
in the entire commercial real estate industry.
Peter, I don't know
So
if you know
we
much
try to
about us,
find
but
ways to
Phil
make it a
Carter and
little
I were
bit
all partners at
interesting
PermitZIP,
to be an
and we
engineer in this
founded
space,
I
especially
founded the
because we do
company a
small
while back,
projects,
and
which is
during
like
furloughs and
the
all this.
least
So I
of
won't
the
tell you the whole
least of the
story, but
least
we're engineers.
interesting
And
thing
generally
to talk
speaking,
about.
the
But
least interesting, I think,
we've been
in the entire commercial real estate industry.
we got a
So
podcast.
we try to
and
find
we
ways
do
to
these
make
live
it a
streams
little
and
bit
spaces, and we're just
interesting
trying
to be an
really
engineer in
dive
this
in
space,
and
especially because we
understand
do
all
small
facets
projects.
of the industry. So we
Like,
learn so much.
the
In these
least of the
conversations.
least of
It's
the least
wild.
interesting
Twitter. I didn't.
thing to
sounds
talk
like you're
about,
the same
but
as me. Like I'll
we've
just
been
talk to people for
we
just 'cause
got a
it's interesting to hear what
podcast
they do,
and
right?
we do these live streams and
100%.
spaces, and we're just trying to
And just
really
as we go,
dive
we
in and
discovered it. I mean,
understand
I
all
was talking to
facets of the
Mall
industry,
Lease-Up
so we
guy on
learn so much
Spaces
in
one
these
time, and he ended up
conversations. It's wild.
talking about a domain
Twitter.
name that I thought
sounds
was
like you're
catchy.
the
So
same
I
as
was
me.
like, I bought it. I was like, all right, now I own it. He's like, you bought bought it. I was like, yeah. He was like, maybe we should call it the marketplace.
Yeah,
soft
100%.
cost. I forget what it was.
And just as we go, we discover it. I mean,
buy
I
way
was
too many
talking to
domains.
a guy on
My wife would
Spaces
be
one
mad if
time
she found out I own another
talking
domain.
about a domain name that I thought was
Guilty,
catchy.
dude.
So I was like, I bought it.
I sold off a couple this year, but like,
Yeah,
maybe we should call it the marketplace.
it's a break-even game for me. Like I buy, you know, 10, sell one.
I buy way too many domains.
For a year,
My wife would be mad if she found out.
I don't even do it because I plan on selling them. I just do it because I'm like, oh, that'd be fun. I bought one that was called Ask Factory,
it's a break-even
and
game
it's AAS as a service, and it was going to be a play on Tinder
it's fun.
and connecting VC.
I don't even do it
as a
because I
service,
plan on
software as a
selling
service
them. I
or
just do it
finance
because
as a
I'm like,
service
that'd be
companies
fun.
where
I
you
bought one
swipe left or right, but
that was
play on the
called
whole fact that it's called the Ask
Factory,
Factory.
and
Like,
it's
are you
AAS
DTF? Would be
as
like
a
you down to
service,
finance,
and it was going
that
to be
kind
a
of
play
stuff,
on
and just
Tinder. and
That-
connecting DC with
For
as a
that,
service,
good idea.
software as a service, or
That's
product as a service companies,
fantastic.
swipe
That's
left or right,
good.
play on the whole
What'd you
fact.
say?
It's called
Oh,
the ask
and
factor.
I almost
Like,
owned
are you
Cornhub.com.
DTF for being like you're down to finance,
my-
that
Pretty
kind of
good.
stuff?
My
and just,
family was
that has
going
bought
to
that
have Corn Day,
for that
which my
stupid
brother and I
idea.
were like, I can't
That's
believe Mom's having
fantastic.
Corn Day.
That's
And
good.
having all of
Yeah.
the family over
What'd you say? Oh,
at the house.
and I
And
almost
then
owned
he made the joke
Cornhub.com.
about cornhole. I mean,
pretty
Cornhub
good.
My-
being a website.
My
for
family
selling,
was going to have
pornographic
Corn Day, which
cornhole
my brother and
games
I
and,
were
like,
like,
we
I
call it
can't
the
believe
glory
Mom's
hole
having
and all these
Corn
other
Day.
Oh my
things.
god.
And having
And so
all of the family over
Cornhub.com
at
was
the
available for
house.
$600.
And
I
then
have a screenshot
he made
to
the
this
joke
day.
about cornhole.
And I wish I had bought
I mean,
it.
Cornhub
I would,
being a
Yeah.
website for
I mean, I
selling
would have done that business.
like
I probably wouldn't be at
pornographic
PermitZIP if I
cornhole
owned that
games
domain.
and like
because
you
I'd be
call it
selling
the glory hole and all these other things.
cornhole games on
And
Cornhub.
so Cornhub.com
This
was
is like-
available for $600.
It's like
I have a
a
screenshot to
Bitcoin
this day.
story.
And I wish I had bought it.
I remember.
I would.
I almost bought it. It
I
was
mean, I
2
would have done
cents.
that business.
No, I
I
almost
probably
bought
wouldn't be at
Cornhub. It was
PermitZIP if I owned that domain. It's like selling
Cornhub was
Cornhub.
my missed Bitcoin.
Cornhole games on Cornhub.
Yeah, man, it's gone
This is
now.
like-
I'll never
It's like
have that
a
opportunity.
Bitcoin
I have
story.
Go,
You know?
Cornhub, and some other
I
variations
remember-
of it. Just 'cause
I almost bought
whatever,
it. It was
but
2 cents. No,
anyway,
I
I
almost
gotta
bought
sell those.
Cornhub. It was $600.
That's funny. The best
Cornhub was my
domain
missed
story I heard.
Bitcoin.
You guys
Yeah,
know
man,
Daniel
it's gone
Yeah,
now. I'll
yeah.
never
he's
have
got
that
a-
opportunity.
his
I
new
have Go
podcast is
Cornhub and some
phenomenal,
other
but
variations
he
of
was
it just 'cause
riffing with one of
whatever,
the
but
guests, and
anyway, I
he's
gotta
like,
sell those.
is men's
That's
butts
funny. My
available?
the
And it
best
was.
domain
So
story
now
I
if you go to
heard- you guys
mensbutts.com, it redirects you to Daniel Tosh's
Yeah.
website.
I'm doing that
So
on a
yeah,
work
his
computer.
new
Men's
podcast is phenomenal.
How is
but
that not
he was
available?
riffing with one of the guests, and
Yeah, it does.
he's like,
I took a
"Is
risk. I'm on the work computer,
mensbutts.com
and
available?" And it was.
it's Daniel
So
Tosh.
now
I mean,
if you
that's
go to
pretty cool.
mensbutts.com, it
Yeah.
redirects you to Daniel Tosh's
So,
website.
sorry,
doing that
everybody
on
that's
a work
tuning in. We didn't
computer,
we
man.
didn't
How
mean
is that
to
not available?
make
Yeah.
us talk about that, but it's just funny.
Yeah,
It's-
it does.
It's what
I
happens
took
when
a
you
risk.
invest in
I'm on
random
the work
stuff.
computer.
But yeah, so
and,
I'm a buyer because
I mean,
it's
that's
the
pretty
idea I
harsh.
want to do.
Luckily.
But I just Carter,
Yeah.
Phil, and I talk about it a lot.
So,
Like you just have to. Have
sorry,
the
everybody
not
that's
to
tuning
do
in. We didn't
ideas and just
mean
focus
to
in on
Yeah.
the one
make
that
us talk
is
about that, but
working, and
it's
real
just
hard to
funny.
do that when you
it's what happens when
have
you invest in
amazing
random
ideas
stuff.
like
But yeah, so I'm a buyer because
Cornhub.com.
it's this idea I want to do.
selling cornhole
But I just
games.
Carter, Phil, and I
with
talk about it a
glory
lot,
holes
and
and all
we
this
just
good
have to have the
stuff. But yeah,
discipline not to do ideas
we
and just
I guess
focus
it's
in
about
on
that time, Phil
the
Carter.
one that is
Actually, you know,
working,
does
and
music-
it's real hard
you
to
guys
do
have
that when
any
you
music.
have amazing ideas like Cornhub.com.
Oh, dude, I'm
selling cornhole
all right.
games
This is our podcast
with
and
glory
intro
holes
music.
and all this good stuff.
So I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
exit the spaces like
we
that.
I guess it's
Thank you
about that
guys for
time,
coming
Phil
in,
Carter.
Mr.
Actually,
Groves,
can you guys hear the
Sam,
music?
Peter.